And hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and gracious good morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. We are beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel here with the first UofL women's athletic team event scheduled in about 3 weeks with women's soccer. So we've made it through the toughest part of the stretch where there are no sports activities, and we'll be able to do such things as preparation for various teams as far as what their strengths and weaknesses and schedules are and things like that. That's right, folks. We've been riding in the desert a long time, but we're finally starting to see signs of civilization down that old Chisholm Trail. How about that? Got a crew of three in here today. Today's broadcast is Case woke up feeling poorly after going to bed feeling poorly, and as a result of such, we basically said, stay in bed and feel poorly. Don't join us, and do
But
not write today, sir.
would prefer him to feel better. But if he's gonna
Yeah,
feel poorly,
primarily, yes, that would be our first request.
yeah,
Feel a better case, but stay in bed and feel poorly. Okay, I know that sounds contradictory, but
yeah.
whatever. Let's hope he is feeling better already, and maybe he's up to even eating a little bit today. And guess who's in the house with us here after getting hit by the subvariant? Jared Anderson, who was pretty much non-symptomatic. But pal, how you feeling?
I still feel the same as I did before I was notified I was exposed. So no different here, other than having been sleeping on the couch for several days. So that part and being confined indoors hasn't been fun. So finally, kind of getting out and about, and being outside yesterday was nice, as I was getting restless. So just at this point, for the next few days, when I'm hanging around people and at work and whatnot, I'll just be masking up as a precaution. But just happy to not be trapped at home anymore.
So mostly how you're feeling is stir crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being a conspiracy theorist that I am, I think it was all part of a thinly disguised plot that Jared came up with because Katie basically banished him to the couch for
Yeah.
behavioral issues. And so he's like, I got to come up with something. Okay, let's pull out the COVID card. That'll work. So hopefully you're back in her good graces, sir. You didn't fool me with this COVID stuff. No, you did not. Daryl not with us today. The controversy we had before the show is we honestly don't know if the bats are in or not in town tonight. But she did trade articles with Jared the other day, which seemed to make me believe that the bats are in town. But if one of my fellows here can kind of jump in here and see where are the bats, then we'll have a better
Let's
idea.
hop on Twitter and we will take a look
Because of her
to see.
duties out there, she traditionally does not join us when she's working
Yeah.
bats camps. So
Yeah. Particularly if they have a midday.
yeah, and Saturday and such,
It
and they
is.
can run
It
pretty
looks
late
like
on.
they
There
were
they are.
they were home last night.
Yeah.
Very good. So she was busy up in her duties there with the minor league AAA baseball team, which is involved in a battle right now with Las Vegas to see which is the most popular of the two AAA franchises.
Hmm. Yeah,
Daryl.
that voting ended last night, and they haven't uh posted the results yet, from my understanding. So we'll wait to see. But Louisville Slugger Field's been in the running, and
Yeah.
usually the semifinals for several years now. Beautiful ballpark down there.
And we'll wait and see, of course, if there are any controversies that spring from the voting.
Oh gosh, don't go there.
Let's let's hope that there's not. Okay, I won't go there, Jeff. You're right. Let's just skip on that. We're sure it's all above board and everything is fine. Yeah. As for myself, it was just another week of kind of following events and looking at things and watching what's going on as we get closer to stuff. I've noticed that some of the actual women's coaches at U of L are taking a little time off right now before they get back into the fall, spring of things, going on vacations and visiting and such and stuff like that. Plus, having camps. Camp's always an important part of what goes on with any type of women's sports program on any campus. You want to bring camps on board to get the young kids involved, get them interested possibly in your program, but more or less develop talent. and make them feel good about the sport that you are providing the camp for. And just from my experiences watching women's soccer camps years ago, wow, they got those kids at a high fevered pitch, and I'm sure that hasn't changed over the years. So, with that in mind, we'll go ahead and get into our scheduling and Twitter part of the
So,
broadcast.
so you're just going to totally skip me?
No, Jeff. I was going to say, you didn't let me finish.
Ah,
I said, normally, with Jared being sick, me being totally pitiful at it, I was going to throw scheduling and Twitter right in your capable lap.
okay.
However, hearing Jared rallying somewhat on the broadcast here, we're going to let him do scheduling and Twitter. But let's first of all, before we do that, get to you and find out what's been going on in
All
your
right.
obviously very busy week since you're still a working man and healthy.
Yeah. I have managed through all of this, to my knowledge, and I have not been testing particularly frequently. Haven't felt too much need to. I don't have too many exposures, but to my knowledge, I have not yet caught COVID in all of this. I'm gonna knock on wood for that. But heads down, working on at work, doing stuff, having a lot of fun with that. So that's still going well. Uh, Hobby wise, personal wise, I've been learning about PCB design and manufacturing, printed circuit boards for like electronics. So that's kind of a interesting little thing to learn about. I don't know if I'll ever make use of that knowledge, but it's interesting to learn it. So, yeah, my normal geeky sort of stuff that I do.
So you could be printing circuit boards before too long here. Are you going to get one of those 3D printers?
That's actually so the circuit boards usually don't use like 3D printers, but
Oh, they don't.
you could use those to create like cases for whatever you do create. Usually you send it for PCB, you send it off to a manufacturing place, but it's remarkably affordable to do with modern technologies that they've adopted in smaller numbers where you don't have to go off and like, I need like 10,000 of these. You can actually do runs of 5, and be able to create your own little electronics device. It's actually kind of a cool, it's very geeky, but kind of a cool experience to play around with and learn about.
And word gets to me, Jared, I'll break this to you first before anybody, that he and Case are secretly working on a 21st century version of Robbie the Robot
Yeah.
that they can send to UofL athletic events to cover games for us.
I was waiting on them to come up with some type of 24/7 coverage for us, so we'll always be on live podcast.
Hey, Robbie the Robot was good at hide and seek, if you remember, from the book I, Robot, right? Asimov?
Yes.
Yeah. He was good at hide and seek,
You're going to be able to get him through security, though, at the media entrance? That's going to be a problem. He's bound to set those bells and whistles off.
True.
And, of course, the people that man that, they'll have him there for hours. Try it again, sir, for the 14th time.
Yeah.
Nope. So, but that would be fun. Let's go to Robbie live at the game.
Robbie couldn't speak, though.
Robbie, quit showing us the cheerleaders. Come on, there's action going on out there.
Yeah, Robbie had no voice, so yeah.
That's right. So you'd have to come up with some kind of vocals for Robbie, which I think one of the best radio voices that I've ever heard was the great Van Vance, who had such a wonderful voice for sports casting and such back in the day. So if you could put Van Vance's voice on Robbie the Robot, then we'd have something working there for sure. We would indeed. Anyway, for scheduling and Twitter, as I mentioned, we're gonna go to Jared because he does seem like he's able to limp out of the dugout, run out to his position on the field, nod his cap to the fans, and say, "I'm toughing it out, gang. Here I am."
Yeah, nothing in scheduling as of this week. We're just shy of 3 weeks from a women's soccer scrimmage on Friday night, August 12th. And then starting the week after that, we'll really see some sports pick up with women's soccer and volleyball and field hockey all in kind of that mid-August range. So we're still in the double-digit days for a little bit longer, but it's finally on our calendar is just a few weeks away. Moving over to Twitter, Daryl, who's not with us, as she's working the bats late last night and celebrating her boyfriend's birthday, uh, tweets out as Daryl Faust 4, the number 4 in that Twitter handle. Case, who is also out, who's dealing with a little bit of a headache, tweets out as best case scenario. That is BST, no E in the word best at the beginning of his Twitter handle. Jeff tweets out with a couple accounts. There's at Jeff McAdams, as well as his UofL Twitter account is at Card Couple Radio. Paulie tweets out as Cardinal Couple, and then I tweet out as Mr. Anderson Jared. And I think once some of these sports start back up, we'll all get quite a bit more active out there on social media again. But we're through scheduling and Twitter.
There you go. And he's done it in record time, I think. Or maybe not record time, but did it pretty quickly.
I think 11:07 has been our quickest before.
And plus, I delayed us at the start too. So
Yeah.
I have to throw that into to banking on it. But yeah, you had mentioned it that will be getting back into scheduling of events here in just about a 3 week period here where things are happening, games are going on, contests are being played. We'll be looking at lineups, we'll be looking at rosters, we'll be looking obviously at schedules. That's a very important thing, and that's going to lead me into kind of a segue where Jared did an article earlier this week about some of the non-conference teams that you'd like to see. I think in his case, he used women's basketball as an example, if I remember correctly, sir.
Yes.
But we can even expand that into a couple of other sports. We know basically the way that the ACC is. You're going to have to play X amount of conference games, no matter what sport you're in. That's just the nature of what conferences are and what they do. The key here, and it's kind of an ever changing key because it used to be you would get your full non conference slate out of the way before you ever got into conference scheduling. But that's not the case so much anymore, not at all. Where you're seeing more and more kind of conference and non conference games mixed in there a little bit to start at the top of the schedule. Now, at the end of the schedule, it is still primarily all conference to get you to the end of whatever sport you're in. But that's even in some cases, like maybe lacrosse or maybe in field hockey, you still see the occasional non-conference opponent in there. Uh, Jared's question and Jared's own answer to his own question: who are some of the teams that would you like to see on what type of basis in Louisville women's basketball's non-conference schedule? And he kind of broke it down. Well, I'll let you take it from there, Jared. You broke it down into several categories and then came up with some suggestions for each category.
Yeah, so you can't schedule every team every year. You just don't have a big enough schedule in terms of doing so. When you look at the ACC taking that often either half or majority of your actual regular season, depending on what sport you're looking at. Uh, Women's basketball, and really honestly, this goes for any sport that we've got, but you want to keep your rivalry alive with Kentucky. There's often bad blood involved with a lot of those, but it's exciting and one of those games that just really hypes people up. UofL UK game is going to bring out a good crowd. We'll get a good online or TV viewing wherever it's being streamed at. So just in terms of that, for your public appearance, it's great for your TV deals and whatnot. Excuse me. Now that Bellarmine's D1, I'm a big fan of establishing a good relationship with Bellarmine here in town. As we're kind of like, I don't want to say like the big brother little brother thing because that kind of gets on my nerves, but kind of like an older sibling looking out for the younger sibling that's just starting to get their foot wet in the Division 1 play, and having a guaranteed close local team saves a lot of money on travel and hotel, but also just kind of a good positive relationship between UofL and Bellarmine is always great. They've got a lot of the sports that we carry as is in terms of such as field hockey. They already use our stadium for field hockey, by the way. Women's basketball, I believe they've got a women's soccer program. They've got swim and dive. They've got a lot of a softball program. We've seen them play. So we've seen them go against us in scrimmages a lot in the past. And now we can kind of convert that into more of a regular season matchup. For a lot of these sports, UofL should easily win for at least a few more years as they're moving up. Women's basketball, it's, a UConn is one of those that I wouldn't really say it was much of a rivalry for many years, especially back in the Big East. But in the more recent years, UofL's gotten some big time wins, and it really has turned into a rivalry. It draws out a huge crowd whenever it's here in town, and whenever UConn's at home, they draw in a huge crowd. It's going to be a top 25 matchup as long as you've got Jeff Walls and Gino Auriemma as the head coaches. So that's another no brainer that you want to try and schedule as much as possible. They're one that might be a little bit tougher to try and schedule every year because, like us, there's a lot of teams that would love to be on our schedule. It's for them, it may be the kind of their Super Bowl game of the season for a lot of these teams, and that'll kind of help transition into a lot of these in-state teams that we have. And I think Jeff Walls has done a fantastic job of trying to schedule as many in-state teams when possible. You see that we've seen Northern Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky recently. He tries to play Western Kentucky, who actually has an overall winning record against the Cards in full history. A lot of that goes back to decades ago. You've got Morehead State, Murray State. It's always good to have some strong relations with just the rest of the, we'll say, smaller schools in the state. Not that they're not successful, they're just more mid-major level, much smaller attendance in terms of their student population and fans they bring out to the game. Cincinnati was another one that I thought was a good one, a good rivalry kind of back in the day of the Big East, and then even that one AAC year. They're pretty close. I think Cincinnati has given UofL some good matchups in different sports in the past. Even in lacrosse, although the Cards are undefeated against Cincinnati in lacrosse still, they've had some very close games in recent years. Going down, let's see who else I had listed here. And some of these are going to go more towards just women's basketball only. Memphis, that's another big time old school rivalry. You're looking at Conference USA, and you're looking at a lot of games and sports where fans would constantly get in fights. So that was actually more of a dangerous rivalry in terms of fan safety. DePaul, they've had an on and off women's basketball program for several years. We've seen where DePaul's upset the Cards in the past. The Cards were hosting in the NCAA tournament, the opening couple rounds. DePaul got that win. I want to say it's maybe a 1 or 2 point win is really, really close. And then a couple years ago, the Haley Van Lith freshman year, Dana Evans senior year, and the Cards went and won what was a 116-75 or something. It was a huge blowout, and it really put the Cards on kind of that top 3 or 4 national stage spotlight that year before they eventually got up to number 1 in the country at one point. Tennessee's another good one. It's a program that's back on the rise again. Not a horrible drive, about 4.5, 5 hours to Knoxville. Tennessee's finally starting to rebound. They had some down years there after the loss of Pat Summitt. And, they're more of a younger program, it feels like, because they've been rebuilding. I think it's a good, strong relationship. Walls has connections with Sam Williams, so he could easily set that up if he wants. And then this is more like guilty pleasure, but I think just watching South Dakota State basketball has been fun. I like that fast-paced offense. You up and go down the court, pass the ball, keep it moving. So that transition offense, it's a similar style to what UofL runs on their offense a lot of the times, and I think you could see a nice, high-scoring game that would just get all exciting. And so I'd like to see that one. I saw we had one of our readers a comment in Indiana. Bloomington's only a couple hours away. It's another short travel. I wouldn't be opposed to that one either. I don't think UofL and Indiana have ever really had much of a big rivalry the same way that UK and IU have, but that could be an interesting rivalry to start going in the future. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to hear what y'all think too on some teams.
And I'll throw a couple of things in here, Jeff, and then kind of turn it over to you. As far as the IU aspect goes in on it, I've been actually up to IU on 3 different occasions up in Bloomington to watch Louisville women's sporting athletic events. I went up a couple of years to see us play basketball against them in Assembly Hall, which was a nice win for us in a very, very vocal and loud environment where uh, they definitely weren't the Louisville fans coming in there and outnumbering the IU fans at all. The IU fans were loud, they were vocal, and then there was that great confusion at the end of that particular game when Jeff Walls all of a sudden decided, post game presser? No, I don't think so. We're getting on the bus and we're getting out of here, which left the media sitting in there for an uncomfortable half an hour. Me and about 12 IU writers waiting for Jeff Walls to show up. Well, guess who never showed up? But
Yeah.
anyway, Terry Moore, the head coach for IU, came in. You could tell she obviously wasn't the happiest camper in the whole KOA campground kids. She came out and was very upset, but managed to curtail it to the point of saying, "Well, I guess it's my turn since the other coach didn't show up." That's a great opening remark for a press conference. Just kind of likes it, saying like, "Yeah, well, we went ahead and shot him because you would have died anyway, right?" No,
Wow.
yeah, it's
Wow.
just it's like okay, Terry, how do you really feel about this whole thing? But it was a good rivalry, and plus it was heightened over the last couple of years with Grace Barker, obviously, who was a, a basketball player out of Sacred Heart that a lot of Louisville fans really wanted to see stay at home here and play for the Red and Black. Louisville didn't go after her though with the vigor that they did other recruits. Grace kind of said, "You know what? They really want me at IU. I'm not getting
Yeah.
that same love here at Louisville. I'm going to Bloomington." Uh, had a turn out for her. She's a very good ball player, no doubt. She's had some great games over her career. What could she have done as a Cardinal, though? It makes you kind of wonder, doesn't it? Yeah. But yeah, Jeff, that's just the one that steps out to me. IU would be fun to play, and they basically do play just about every sport that we do, also, as to
Yeah.
where some of these other schools do not. They've got. I'm not sure whether they've got women's lacrosse up there or not. I'm thinking they do,
Yeah.
but
I
uh,
don't know. I haven't looked, but yeah,
uh,
I like you all. I like a lot of these regional and then local sort of rivalries. The in-state ones, particularly, I think are a lot of fun because you can have some more of that interplay with some of the other team's fans. We Louisville volleyball played Northern Kentucky last year, and there were a bunch of Norse fans in the parking garage tailgating before the match. Just walk over and say hi and greet them, and just had a lot of fun because we're all kind of local, or at least local-ish. An hour and a half drive maybe. Um, it's just a lot of fun to have that local feel to it. So I've always liked the in-state ones. For us, Western Kentucky fields a lot of really good teams that are competitive with us. Basketball, women's basketball, and volleyball definitely can be competitive in both of those at times. Um, and now we've got a cross-town rivalry with Bellarmine that we can start playing with, and that just is a lot of fun. And of course, the good intentions, good relationship between the two schools and the athletic programs, and even the individual programs within the athletic departments, has been just really exciting to see and a lot of fun. We saw the interplay between Bellarmine basketball and Louisville volleyball when UofL needed to host NCAA volleyball at Freedom Hall, and the interactions and back and forth that went on there. It was cool to see. I look to Cincinnati and Xavier and that crosstown rivalry that they
oh yeah,
have that is maybe not quite as pleasant as the interaction between the UofL and Bellarmine, but to have that in town back and forth, and it just seems like a lot of fun, and it just can be a real joy to it. So I'm looking forward to that developing over the years. As Jared mentioned, we've played Bellarmine a lot in softball, but it's always been like exhibition in like fall ball. So looking forward to seeing that those two programs tangling a little more. They've had a pretty good lacrosse program. They've been D1 in lacrosse for a number of
oh
years,
yeah.
well before the rest of the athletic department moved up. So they're pretty good there. Yeah, it's just that's a lot of fun. I love the in-town ones, or the local and regional ones a lot. So, but I will echo like DePaul in women's basketball. Yeah, never bet against a Doug Bruno team,
Oh, you gotta
right?
love Doug Bruno.
Right. Like they may have years that they're not very good.
Yeah.
Like the last time we met them, we pretty much thumped them. But you don't ever count on that because Doug is going to come up and he's going to come up with some good teams periodically. In volleyball, the probably the closest thing I can see to that is maybe Purdue. I mean, they're a pretty good team traditionally, but they do have some off years. But again, don't ever bet against Dave Shondell and a Dave Shondell coach team. Um, or any team coached by a person named Shondell, I think, really. But Purdue is probably the most prominent there, and they're a good team. We've played them a lot. We've played them in tournament time a lot because of the regional geographic scope of NCAA volleyball tournaments. So that one's a lot of fun to see when we do that. When we play them. We played them last year regular season. We're going to play them again this year in the regular season. So a lot of fun with that one.
And especially, I'm going to jump in on two more things here, Jared, and turn it back over to you. I never want to go to Cincinnati for another lacrosse match as long as I live.
That was
Yeah,
an adventure for sure. That
it was.
blizzard that came through for 15, 20 minutes. It was
Yeah, it was
brutal
just a
in terms of
ridiculous
cold.
whiteout conditions, and not getting a seat in the Cincinnati press box. That was the only Louisville media representative that was there, besides the ones with the team. I come out there, and it was akin to the scene in the Forrest Gump movie when Forrest gets on the bus the first time and tries to find a seat, and everybody goes, "Taken, can't sit here. Taken, can't sit here." There was no seat available for me up in the press box, although there were empty seats.
Yeah, that press box design didn't seem like
And it was
much of a press
ridiculous.
box design. It seemed more like it was an old, maybe like a parking office or something that got converted, because only maybe a quarter of the press box you could even see the field. The
Yeah,
rest you were
one
so far
fourth of it had
back.
windows, and the others were up against walls. It was like, what did they do here? Just decide to throw in a couple windows at the last minute so people could see the field?
And then the drive back home wasn't all that great either, as we had the Louisville women's basketball game against Syracuse going, and the Cards lost that game.
Yeah,
So that wasn't much better either.
the best part of the trip was going to eat at Cracker Barrel almost by the time we got home, I think. But anyway, yeah. So UC and soccer, or UC and lacrosse, no, I won't be a part of that anymore. Uh, we'll not
Only
do
at
that.
home.
Only at home, yeah. And then I will not let them sit in the press box if they show up at all. They probably won't with any media type of coverage. As far as the other one goes to here, and kind of a fun one, Doug Bruno is a national treasure.
Yeah,
You got to love the man.
he's a good guy.
When they beat us several years ago, and I was there covering as part of the media corps, and went to talk to him after he addressed the media and everything. The first thing I said, "That looks like a Grateful Dead tie, Doug." And he goes, "It is."
That's awesome.
He says, "Are you into the Dead?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've got all kinds of Dead merchandise and material." Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And he goes, "Favorite Dead song?" I threw one at him. He threw one back at me. He goes, "What did you do when Jerry Garcia died?" I said, "I cried." "What did you do?" He said, "I played Grateful Dead music nonstop for 24 hours."
Yeah.
That's cool. And just the great dialogue I had with him for 10 minutes, he actually made me forget that Louisville had just been knocked out of the NCAA tournament by DePaul.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about times we'd seen the Grateful Dead, memories we had of the Grateful Dead, things like that and everything like that. And I said, "I've got a Jerry Garcia tie I'm going to send you." He said, "I would love to have another Jerry Garcia tie."
That's awesome.
I said, "I don't wear ties anymore, Doug, anywhere.
Yeah.
I've even got instructions in my burial when I die. Don't put a tie on me. No one will recognize me." And sure enough, a couple weeks later, I did send him the Garcia tie, and I got a very nice little thank you note back from him.
Very cool.
Yeah, cool guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so those are the two I wanted to point out. I would love to see us play DePaul every year in something or another.
Yeah.
And two more I'm going to bring in here, and you can debate these if you want to, guys. We've got Sam Purcell down at Mississippi State now. And
Yeah.
wouldn't it be fun to play them in basketball every year or two on a home and away basis? And we've also got Becky Burke up at Buffalo right now,
Yeah.
ex-Cardinal player, trying to build a nice D1 program up there with Buffalo. Wouldn't that be a fun series to have
Again.
every year or two? Indeed, it would.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, guys?
The Mississippi State one, I'm gonna cut in real quick, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still feeling a little bit sore out. That
You
open
got no
wound never
love.
healed. That
Yeah.
open wound never healed from that game. I did think about that one though, and I looked. I think Mississippi State is 1-0 all time in all-time series, so that would be a new one to nice.
Do you think Maisha would show up?
Yeah.
That would be good. And I think both programs have enough money that they'd be able to travel, so that's not really out of the question. I think the Buffalo one's a little bit tougher. That's a much smaller school. Becky Burke being brand new. we would be able to afford to go there and play a lot easier than trying to bring them in on a regular basis, just because that's going to be a lot of funding for a school that doesn't
Yeah.
have the funding that UofL has.
It would almost have to think, Jeff, a kind of situation where Buffalo would try to schedule like 3 games in the area in a week's time, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how much that happens in basketball, but it's something they could look at for sure. They could come in and play us, play Kentucky. Kentucky would be willing to somebody, or us and Bellarmine and somebody else. I don't know.
Or
It's
at NKU or somebody, yeah.
yeah, and KU potentially. Yeah, I love that idea. I do also love where you have coaches that have connections together. I've always kind of had it's bittersweet opinions about playing Maryland for similar reasons because Jeff Walls was, an assistant under Brenda Freeze there. That's always kind of been an interesting one. But yeah, bringing in those coaching ties, Becky Burke and Sam Purcell, those have always been kind of fun ones. And of course, Cincinnati, Michelle Clark Hurd is up there, obviously. So she's a former assistant. So, those are a lot of fun. Yeah, I think those would be pretty cool to have in. I'd love to see some support. I'd love to see U of L continue to support Becky Burke, particularly. She continues to be supportive of Louisville big time. She reps Louisville a lot. When Louisville's doing well, she cheers for them very publicly, even as the head coach at Buffalo now and previously at South Carolina State. Let's return that favor. Let's help build her up and help build her team up. And I suspect that's probably on the radar of Jeff Walls and crew there. So yeah, I would love to see that happen.
I think we should make the trip to Buffalo before inviting them here. Go
Yeah.
on and bring in a big time ranked school to Buffalo and hype that up as a big time game there.
Right.
Get the fans out and about, get their
Absolutely.
students out. And it would be a good kind of introduction for Becky Burke, Jeff Walls, and you see those
Yeah.
two on national TV or whatever streaming service, and over there talking before the game and show that Jeff Walls coaching tree, and then he can just hype up Becky Burke a little bit during either the pregame presser or postgame presser or whatever he wants to do there, and just really hype her up and get the fans fully, truly on board with her.
And not only that, but here's a marketing idea for our non-functional marketing department. Should they ever think about it, why not have a women's basketball lacrosse doubleheader up at Buffalo to start this out and send Scott Teeter, who is so widely loved up in that area up there,
That
and his
region, yeah.
lacrosse team to go up and play up there. Let's say if on a Sunday afternoon after we play them in basketball on a Saturday night, I'm sure that their fans would turn out in groves to see Scott because he is a hero up in that area and especially in Canada. And guess what? Canada ain't so far from Buffalo, folks. Okay. So you'd probably get a good turnout for that lacrosse match.
That's true. Canisius is where Teeter was, and that is in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about it. It would be a very, very nice. Now, playing Canisius in basketball, well, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not a bad program, but
Yeah.
still, it's kind of, you want to play, you want to support schools like that, which kind of surprises me is we've never played Beth Ann Ord all these years
Yeah.
that I can think back on.
Yeah.
She's been to several nice schools, but
yeah. I think we played Weber State once, didn't we?
did we? Boy, I don't have a recollection of it.
It's been a while, so I don't recall that for sure.
But that was very early in the Wall's coaching career as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But all right, so with that aspect, and then certainly a lot of fun things going on with fall sports, Jared, you had also kind of came up with earlier this week a kind of a do and a don'ts list for attending fall sports here. So if you want to just kind of run into that, let's say we want to go to the lacrosse, not the lacrosse, the field hockey games this fall, Jared. What are some of the things we should and should not do?
Don't bring a bag that's not a clear see-through bag. I've seen this every game last season and the season before, and you've got a lot of fans, especially for opposing teams, that aren't aware of the clear bag situation, and you get to the gate and you're getting turned away. Thankfully, the parking garage is right across the street, so if you do have to go back to your car, it's not a far walk. But it's one of those that UofL has publicly posted about their clear bag policy for several years now, and for UofL fans, it should be no secret. Players should probably remind their family that comes out to watch, like, just a heads up, make sure you're doing this. So that's kind of the big one there. Field hockey gets hot. That turf isn't like a football turf or lacrosse turf, which also can get very hot as well, but it's a much thinner surface that sits right on top of concrete. That sun hits it. You're playing a lot of day games. That field temperature is often in the triple digits. Think of what we're having outside, just even worse right now for those players. So if you're sitting anywhere down low, you've got that sun beating on you, you got the heat bouncing up off the turf. I mean, you better be dressed in a t-shirt and shorts. It's minimal clothing, still considered appropriate game attire. So we don't want to be accidentally flashing the rest of the fans, but make sure you're dressed in something cool. Sunscreen might be a good idea if you're pretty fair skinned like myself. Staying hydrated, water. I believe our contract is with Gatorade, so definitely kind of stock up on some Gatorade if you're heading out to those games. Maybe a ball cap just to give your face a little bit of shade, keep it cool. Always works well. Field hockey is a little different where they do water the field at halftime. So anybody in that whole lower area of the complex is bound to get sprayed a little bit if you're not careful. So make sure when halftime rolls around, get back quick. Because once those teams exit the field, those water cannons turn on. And you know that if you're sweating, it may feel good to let a little water hit you. Just don't stand right in front of it. We posted a couple pictures.
Little mist from the edge of the field's not bad.
Yeah, so it'd be very nice.
If that cannon hits you, you will go back a few feet just to as a precaution, and it's not going to feel too
still got
pleasant.
the challenge out there too for Jared versus water cannon.
That's right.
But they've got the new turf at field hockey now, so go out, check that out. They put in the new video board last year. Go check that out. So there's some cool new features that they've put in recent years. So I mean, it's a good place to go out. Field hockey's free, so it's a nice family event. They'll usually let you bring in a water bottle anyways if it's a hot one, so I mean, you don't have to worry about paying for a drink. So head on out over there. I think field hockey is a fun one to watch, even if I still don't understand all the rules.
You could also take in an empty water bottle. They do have water fountains. And
yes.
So you can.
And if you're of an alcoholic bent, you can get a beer in there too at times too. They won't let us get one in the concession or in the media box, but the concession stand, if you're going to watch the game on the other side of the field, you can have a beer, although it be basically a very tame domestic beer kind of selection there over there. I did check it out one time to see just what they had after a game to see if I might want to chug one down before walking back to the car. But it was all pretty much your Budweiser products and your Millers and the Miller Lite and stuff like that. There wasn't really anything fancy or exotic there to choose from. But still, if you're thirsty and you like beer, a beer's a beer sometimes for the majority of us. But that can always be fun. But be careful of field hockey balls, eh, Jared? They were a little rough there, aren't they?
Those balls hurt if they hit you. Even trying to stick your foot out to stop a loose ball that's rolling away, it can leave a nice little bruise on your foot if you're not careful. So always keep at least one eye on the field and on the ball at all times. Just as a precaution.
I think that's true at every sport.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it even at volleyball with how close those seats are. Someone's not paying attention, looking down at their phone, texting.
Yeah.
You take that volleyball to it's still going to hurt. It won't feel like what a field hockey ball would, but it's still going to hurt even at volleyball. But yeah, always keeping an eye on the court or on the field just in case you've got a player going flying, chasing after ball, or you get a ball that's kind of coming your way at a fairly high speed.
All important things to remember when you're going there, and certainly you don't really have to worry about many sellouts or any sellouts in field hockey. I wouldn't think that's a pretty massive seating area across the field from where the press box and the players gather. So I think you're going to be okay there as far as sitting. It's just how many steps do you want to climb in order to gain a seat?
Yeah, the upper level is not handicap friendly. There's no elevator to get up there for the public. So if you have trouble climbing stairs or you're just unable to climb any stairs, stay on the lower level. There's usually open seating still on the lower level, and you can kind of spread off to the sides near the entrance and watch from afar as well if need be.
And the parking, of course, not a problem with a parking garage right across the street, basically from the field hockey complex. And also, if you've got young ones in tow, they might enjoy going to the Don Fightmeister. What would you call that thing? A playground? Is the best term
playground.
for it?
Yeah, it's some type of playground, yeah.
Where the kiddies can run around and play ground. and do things like that after sitting through an hour and a half or 2 hours of successful Louisville field hockey. So you can basically make a nice day of it because there's a McDonald's there too. You could go and take the kids in for a happy meal afterwards. So it could be a fun afternoon for you to go out and catch Louisville field hockey. And I think for what I've seen, Jared, are these going to be primarily Friday and Sunday games this year?
Yeah, historically they look at early Friday afternoon. So a lot of people, if you work standard hours on a Friday, you're probably going to miss these due to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock starts. Their Sunday ones, they often aim for close to lunchtime. You'll see a lot of
Yeah,
noon, 1 o'clock
noon
games
one.
there. The lighting isn't really set up for nighttime games with field hockey as of right now, and I think especially for Sunday, you're looking at travel purposes anyway. So play that early game, let the opposing team finish up, shower, catch their bus, and or plane and head on home. But yeah, a lot of early afternoon, lunchtime games for Friday and Sunday for field hockey.
I was just going to take a real quick look here at it. And a lot of times, what will happen is you will get the aspect of a third team coming in too sometimes that wants to
Mhm.
play uh, the other two teams in there. We've had that happen in the past before, and that can always be fun if you're a real big field hockey fan. That's a chance for you to see 3 nice days of field hockey there in the 3 day period of 3 games, and
And with field hockey or with Bellarmine using our field hockey facility, you've got even more games and
that's
matches that are
another
happening there.
chance.
And I think to avoid conflicts on the same day, I think a lot of times Bellarmine was scheduling Saturday games as well. And I think that's why on Sunday you saw a lot of UofL noon field hockey games. So that way Bellarmine could schedule something that would be 4 or 5 o'clock and still have enough daylight to play.
Yeah, but some very good opponents coming in here. Although the team kind of starts out on the road here. I'm looking at this. They play Bellarmine on the 21st at a Traeger, and then they are on the road for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games before they come home at the September 9th, taking
Been
on.
hanging out with softball too much?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, obviously. Gosh, JMU comes into town, James
Yeah.
Madison University, which will be a night game on Friday, and then you get as we mentioned, the Sunday noon contest against a very good Michigan team that'll be in here in September 11th. And then just as being on the road for that length of time, Louisville was actually home for 5 games in a row. JMU, Michigan, North Carolina, Fairfield comes to town, and then ending up with Indiana in here on September 23rd. So
I don't know much about Fairfield, but otherwise, none of those are cakewalks.
no, not at
No,
all.
not at all. And some
Yeah.
of these, you'll see sometimes with field hockey, you're going to see a lot of conflicts on Fridays with volleyball playing
Yeah.
as well. Men's soccer does a lot of Friday games, so you may be looking at some traffic. There's the North Carolina field hockey game at 3 o'clock. There's also a football home opener at 7 that day, so you're going to be looking at some insane traffic and parking. So that could get a little wild for some of these games. So it's one of those always plan ahead. Make sure you know what's going on campus. Know the traffic patterns and where to park.
Absolutely, as we've seen before on days where multiple events are like that, some people try to get to both and see part of both. Jared's certainly very busy trying to cover both with the camera, and they can be fun. So, but field hockey's worth it. If you've never been, I heartily encourage you to go take one in. It's a great time, and certainly a chance for you to see a very good top 4 field hockey team in the nation compete this year. That's always fun to watch too. Another fall sport Jared and Jeff have a lot of knowledge on as far as attendance and some of the do's and don'ts, and that would be volleyball. It's an indoor fall sport that they hold over at the L&N FCU. What does that mean, Paul? That's the L&N Federal Credit Union Auditorium. Used to be the old Cardinal gym right over there at the corner of campus, right across from the softball complex in the SAC building. A lot of fun things that can go on over there when the Cards are playing volleyball over there, gang. Who wants to start out some of the do's and don'ts for that?
Just a couple small things I noticed with volleyball is first, this is an actual ticketed event. You have to pay admission, small facility, tickets run out quick. And then the other thing is it gets really hot. I don't think the HVAC units are capable of handling that at this time. just from the small things I noticed. But Jeff being a fan at these events, I think can probably go into a lot more detail on what works better.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The HVAC was not upgraded as part of the renovation they did in what was Cardinal Arena, now an NFC Arena. So it's and even before the renovation, the HVAC really wasn't adequate for that space, to be honest. So if you're going to go, expect to be warm inside. There's probably about 10 degrees difference between being in the arena proper and out in the lobby, typically on a typical match event. So expect that. Expect to be warm inside, even if it's snowing outside in late November, early December. But yeah, ticketed season tickets are sold out already for this year, by the way. So your only option at this point is single game tickets. In as Jared pointed out, you'll want to get those early because if you try to walk up to the window, right before the game, there's a decent chance you're not going to get a seat. You may get a standing room only ticket, but you're not going to have a seat if you do that. Probably. This is what you get when you have a successful team. To some degree, you get more people showing up, you get more people buying tickets, and there's just not that many seats in there, so be aware of that. As we talked about with field hockey, watch for flying balls. Volleyball is it's heavier, obviously it's much bigger, so it's heavier than like what you would get with a field hockey ball. It's not as hard, but you still have more mass coming at you. It can still give you a pretty nasty hit. It's certainly been known to being hit in the head with a volleyball has caused concussions. So do be aware of it for safety reasons. You are right on top of the stadium, the court in the arena. So it is close by. It is easy for balls to come up in the stands. They do frequently. So
Jeff, if I recall with volleyball, and you can correct me, the seats are fairly tight. There's no cup holders, and the audio system
correct.
is usually a little too loud for comfort, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I'd love to see the audio get turned down just a touch, at least when the place isn't jam packed full. When you get more people in there, people absorb sound, right? So it's not so bad when it's full, but yeah, it can get a little loud pre-game, pre-match before it's filled in. It can be a little loud, so be prepared for that. They're trying to hype it up. They're trying to make it a fun game environment, but it gets a little intense at times. So,
yeah. And of course, look for Jeff at the volleyball.
Yeah.
As he goes in and leads the crowd in cheers every time that Danny Busboom Kelly drops her clipboard. Jeff runs to the floor level and starts putting up the card sign, encouraging Danny to pick up her clipboard.
Yeah, and he'll teach you to do the cards cheer.
I did. I've taught a bunch of people. I taught a bunch of people. My mother has helped too. So, but yeah, the pattern on that is when the opposing team calls a timeout. Because that generally means that UofL has some momentum, is scoring well. So let's get up and cheer, or is starting to mount a comeback, which is when it's even more important. One thing that we did towards the end of the season last year and the tournament is some of the parents, Trent Duffer, encouraged me to start doing it some when it's a media timeout too. So the way volleyball timeouts work, if no one has called a timeout by the time the first team hits 15, they take a media timeout. So there were a couple of times where I went ahead and led the cheer during the media timeout, particularly if UofL was, gaining some momentum during that time of the game. So be aware of that. Might do that some again this year.
And it looks like there could even be a potential road trip for our illustrious Jeff to start out the season at the end of August. Whether he would want to go to Vermilion, South Dakota or not, though, for 2 action-packed days. We'll see on that, I guess.
Probably won't make South Dakota. Although if you do go, I would be willing to bet that Maggie DeYoung will be there. Say hi to her, former player. So she's in the area. But no, the opening road trip then continues after that in Bowling Green against Western. So I probably will head down there. It's on a
definitely
Wednesday evening. So
Always a fun match against them too.
Yeah, they've got a really good team. Travis Hudson in there is head coach, and he's doing some good stuff with that, building up that program really well over the years. I'm not always the biggest fan of him, but you have to credit that he's doing a good job with the program, building a solid program, and you know, in a conference that does him no favors for that. To be honest, in Conference USA, they don't get a whole lot of stiff competition. They tend to just walk through their conference, which is a little, causes some problems when you're trying to prepare for postseason play, and you just don't have that stiff competition to play against. So, but credit him doing a good job. It's always those are always exciting games to watch.
You just have to wonder, at least I do in my analytical mind, when will the Louisville Athletic Department and when will volleyball finally get it and realize that although they may not need to be in a facility as big as the KFCM Center, which they were for a while back when Ann Cordes was the head coach, they need to have an auditorium or a gymnasium or some place to play that's going to hold a nice, let's say, 7,000 people, okay? I'm using that as a random number, but I do honestly think that the Louisville volleyball fan base could do a big dent into a 7,000 seat arena.
That would be a very big volleyball arena. There are bigger ones in the country. Nebraska, I think, will seat about 8,000 in there.
Yeah.
But that would be a pretty big one. But I would think anything from 5,000 up would be sufficient. But yeah, I agree with you. And this is success at this level is a newfound thing for this program. We've gone to Sweet 16s before. Before Danny Busman Kelly was here, but not many. And now we're, Sweet 16, Elite 8, and now Final Four. Certainly is a progression for this program, and it's starting to draw more attention. And I do think, when they moved back from the KFC Center, when Danny Busman Kelly came to be coach and started playing in the LNN FCU arena and renamed it to that at the same time. Renovated it, added seating. I looked at it, and even then, you'll remember me saying, "I don't think it's big enough."
They do have a little bit. I told the KFCM Center this year.
They do playing Syracuse there. I think is.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. No. Notre Dame is who it is.
Is that Wednesday night match?
Yeah, October 26th. Yeah, Wednesday evening. Presume it'll be evening.
Yeah, it is Notre Dame. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun to be back down there. Like we talked about, that's a big arena. It's a really, really big arena, and volleyball crowds tend to get lost in there. So I don't fault the move back to LNN compared to getting just lost in KFCM Center, where it didn't sound like there was a crowd at all. LNN gives a great home court advantage because you're right on top of it and really loud. But yeah, I'm with Paulie on this one. We need a kind of a mid-sized arena to be able to host volleyball.
And I say move it across the street to Broadbrand Arena, revamp and remodel that where it'll hold 5,000 comfortably.
Yeah, I disagree, but
okay. And I think Jared has spoken the past a bit, that being a possibility. So, but in any event,
I think if you're not going to build a new arena, which UofL does not have the funding for a multi-million-dollar facility at this time, they've struggled to even get the money for the baseball complex that's now been put on hold once again. But that big lot across the street from the lacrosse stadium there on Floyd Street, where the silos used to be, UofL's rented that lot out to different companies. There's a trucking company that had stored a lot of their trucks there at one point. I think a car dealership had stored some overflow of vehicles at one point, but that's got a lot of space. And I think we even talked about this through on here and through some of our write-ups before, is that's a big enough facility besides having an indoor volleyball facility. If UofL wanted to expand and add a beach volleyball program, you've got room for that, and you'd still have room for parking too.
They could do it, but how much room is that dorm that they're putting up there across from the?
That actually will not interfere with that at all. You've got your side street that runs over into Eastern Parkway, and the dorm will not interfere with that at all.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. 2 sports down, and one more fall sport that we want to kind of get you ready for and get you prepped for a little bit is one that we all three have hit on occasion, pretty frequently as a rule, and that is, of course, over at the Lynn Stadium where women's soccer plays, and they will actually be the first fall event to take place for us in a couple
The
weeks' time.
Dr.
Some
Mark and Cindy Lynn Stadium, as
Yes, not
opposed
to be
to the
confused with
Lynn
Lynn
Family
Stadium.
Stadium,
Yeah,
because that's not
it's
confusing at all.
not at all. It's the Lynn on campus, if that'll
Yeah.
help you any, as compared to the Lynn downtown. But there is some certainly,
It's the first Lynn Stadium.
yeah, some great views there as well as far as things go. And also, Jared can kind of fill you in on a few of the do's and don'ts in Lynn.
Yeah. First, parking is a little bit tougher here, as there's not really any parking immediately adjacent to the complex. So you see a lot of people park over at Cardinal football stadium, and I wouldn't say it's a bad walk. It's maybe a 5-minute walk to Dr. Mark and Cindy Lynn Stadium. Or you'll see in evenings and weekends, meter parking's free after 6 o'clock Monday through Saturday, and free on Sunday. So a lot of folks will go down Floyd Street on the other side of the train tracks and park there at some meters. You run the risk of having a train stop on the tracks and prevent you from getting either to or from the stadium. So just be mindful of that. But plenty of free parking options there near the soccer complex. So I would not advise trying to pay somewhere to park. I think they made a good move of switching to free admission last year, as the attendance numbers continue to drop in both men and women's soccer there at Dr. Mark and Cindy Lynn Stadium. That's also more of just a nationwide thing. It's not just UofL that's been impacted in terms of attendance numbers. So switching to free attendance, which appears to be the same this coming year, as they haven't sent anything out about renewing season tickets for fans. Yeah, it's a good way to bring out the family and not have to spend $50 on a group of tickets or anything. Plenty of seating. They've got chairback seating on the main side of the stadium. Great view of their supersized video screen. You can see scoreboards, see the actual match through the TV cameras that way as well. A little bit of an awning, so in case there's some rain or if you need some shade, that awning can certainly help. You can walk around the entire stadium. Two sides have some type of seating, either chairback or bleacher, and then two sides are grass berms. There's a playground for the kids in case they're bored. Concession stands over near the entrance. The past few years, they've started closing up shop right after halftime. I think that's a little early in my opinion, but I don't know what the contract states that UofL has with center plate, as well as what their staffing situation is either. So if you do want food or drinks, make sure you do that by halftime. Plenty of restrooms there at the facility, and then due to the size of the stadium and the low crowds that have been coming in lately, there's plenty of room to spread out. So if you still do have concerns about being too close to people, you've got plenty of room to get far away from other fans while still enjoying the match.
Indeed, you do, and certainly that a lot of fun over there to watch the kids in the playground on full nights as well, as they're over there, and of course waiting for the eventual train to come through. That always seems to scare the holy crap out of the visiting team, and it gives us something also to count in addition to the other things that we do there. Here's the second train of the evening. It's an eastbound, and it's at 7:59. Uh, Other things about Lynn Stadium that I think are important to point out to you is that basically, when you come into Lynn Stadium, you're going to have to walk some steps unless you take the elevator to get to your seating area. That being is in the entrances they have are basically on the plain level surface of the stadium. The seating, of course, is up a little bit higher than that, so you're going to have to go up a series of steps no matter which of the 3 or 4 entrances you go in order to get to your seating. Once you get up into seating, though, as Jared said, it's pretty spread out and it's pretty nice and it's pretty comfortable. There's really not a bad seat in Lynn Stadium to watch soccer. And
That's what I was going to emphasize. Is the sight lines in there are fantastic. There's, like you said, there are no bad seats. You can, whether you want to be up higher or down, lower.
It depends. If you're in the boiling point during sunset, you can't see at all.
Well, but if you're
right
over
behind a
there,
goal.
you're there to
dangerous.
cheer and be part of the student. That's basically student section. So
if you're
Yeah,
Gabby
but that's
Casellas,
more
you may not be happy with it, but
Yeah.
that's another whole topic in itself, is who they're going to get to replace Gabby Casellas. But that's something we won't go into today, because guess what, kids?
jersey number 1 apparently but I have no
Yeah,
idea who that's going to be.
Platypus, I think, on the schedule.
Well,
I
we could
looked at the
always
roster. There
throw
wasn't one.
a wig on Case, and Case has a lot of goalkeeper experience.
I'm thinking Case would be a good option, but I think Daryl would be a better option. Let's get Daryl out there with a little padded up to the hilt and put her out there and just have her charge things.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
Daryl's a competitive player. She's got a lot of fight in her, so watching her play, I think any sport at UofL would be really fun because she's not going to stop and she's going to go at you the full whatever time frame the regulation is.
Daryl used to charge ground balls quite ferociously when she played in her softball days. I'm sure she could do the same with a soccer ball headed her way. And woe be the player that would try to interfere Daryl from getting successfully to a soccer ball. There could be some pain involved there. But, all right. As I mentioned, we rolled into the noon hour here, so certainly a great discussion today on some of the things that are coming up here, some of the things that we may see down the road. A lot of fun involved. We'll go ahead and get into some final thoughts now. So, Jared, what have you got for us as final thoughts go?
Yeah, with the fall sports seasons approaching, obviously just hopeful with a lot of the SID switcheroos that we will still be credentialed to go out and cover the games either through press box or on the field with pictures. Even if for some reason we are denied with the new SID coming in or something, you'll still see me out there as a fan as much as possible cheering on the cards at the different sports.
I will wait and see how the configuration shows up with the SIDs to sports. I'm fairly certain we're going to get credentials. One of the few remaining SIDs that has been there since I've been going there has virtually assured me she will have media passes for us.
Mm.
That is a good thing. We're not real sure if the women's basketball SID is here yet or not, and this will be kind of segueing into my final thoughts here. But that's right, women's basketball is getting a new SID as well, who's supposed to arrive here from Notre Dame at the end of the month. This will be, since I've been attending UofL women's basketball games and covering UofL basketball, this will be the actual fifth SID for women's basketball that I've had the pleasure of being associated with and getting information from. Uh, it is a high pressure job. It is a job that you need to be very, very quick in responding to certain things that happen. Couple that with a coach that wants the best in reporting for his squad out there to get the news out as quickly as possible. And in addition to that, in past years, that SID has also been responsible for another fall sport, traditionally women's soccer, and a spring sport as well, traditionally lacrosse, to cover in addition to women's basketball. Is it a demanding job? Yes, it is indeed, but it's also a very rewarding job. As Dr. Seuss used to say, kids, look at the places you'll go when you have the women's basketball team in tow. It can be a lot of fun to do, but it's also certainly something that's not for the faint-hearted. So I look with anticipation to see what we're going to get Notre Dame way as far as a women's basketball SID. I'm certain that it's going to be one that's going to want to work very closely with the media outlets that have been here for a long time. At least that is my hope. All right, Jeff, what you got?
Yeah, just kind of echoing a little bit what you all said, kind of preparing, and of course the theme of the show, preparing for fall sports. It caught me by surprise in pre-show when we were talking about it, and then we mentioned it during the show. 3 weeks to the first event. It's coming up fast, so getting ready to do that. Getting hyped for volleyball as I do. That's what I do, and we're gonna have a great team there. Start picking out the games you want to come to. If you're not a season ticket holder, go ahead and order those tickets and plan for coming out, because it's there's a good chance you won't be able to if you wait till the last minute. So come on out, be ready to do the cards cheer when the team calls a timeout, because I'll be there.
Have some fun and watch Jeff
So,
There you go.
I think those are contradictory, but okay.
But it's certainly, that one little old lady who's attending her first volleyball game who pokes her husband in fear with her elbow. Why is
Yeah.
that man running down to the field every time there's a timeout? What's going on? Why is he going to the court? What's he doing?
The big overweight guy with long hair and a beard and scary.
Yes, he's trying to go out there and prove to Coach Buzz Boom Kelly he can be that setter. No, just kidding there. But certainly we invite everybody to come out and join us in the fall sports. We're certainly looking forward to them beginning again, coming back soon. And we want to thank you for listening to this edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. And hope you have a great week ahead. Read the column every day because there's something always fun and fascinating for you to look at in the Cardinal Couple column. You can find it at www.cardinalcouple.com. Click on it every day, sometimes twice if you want to. Okay. Everybody have a great Saturday.